How many American children will die as a result of the anti-vax policies that will be promoted by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in his role within the Trump administration? RFK Jr., of course, is the presumptive nominee for the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services in President-elect Donald Trump's second cabinet. The reason I ask how many is because of a recent article in New York Times titled "Kennedy's Lawyer Has Asked the FDA to Revoke Approval of the Polio Vaccine." RFK Jr.'s lawyer is named Aaron Siri, and the article makes it very clear that RFK Jr. is very close to his lawyer. And RFK Jr. has expressed interest in having Siri serve in the top legal department of the Health and Human Services cabinet. Now, this is particularly alarming because RFK Jr. has a history of killing children or playing a very significant part in killing children, or in the case of Gaza, supporting the killing of children there, but that's a different issue. Let's go over the role that RFK Jr. played in the death of children in Samoa. Samoa is a country that is approximately 2,500 miles southwest of Hawaii. The country has a population of a little over 200,000 people. Back in late 2019, Samoa declared a measles epidemic. Remember that measles is a highly contagious viral disease. It's also a vaccine preventable disease. The epidemic would result in the death of 83 Samoans, mostly children. So how did this happen? Well, as Mehdi explains,
now remember, we're talking about measles here, a disease that was almost eliminated worldwide thanks to safe, effective, and cheap vaccines. In fact, in 2013, 92% of infants in Samoa were receiving the measles, mumps, rubella, or MMR vaccine around the time they turned a year old. In 2017, though, that was down to 67%. And in the one-year period from 2017 to 2018, it dropped down to about 40%. As the New York Times put it, Samoa was suddenly on a par with some of the poorest countries in Africa.
So the reason it dropped down to a 40% vaccination rate is because of the anti-vax movement. In July of 2018, 2 babies died because 2 nurses made a mistake in administering the measles vaccine. Instead of mixing sterile water into the vaccine, the nurses accidentally mixed expired anesthetic into the vaccine, causing the 2 babies to die. Now, the anti-vax movement seized that moment to falsely claim that the deaths were caused by the measles vaccine itself as opposed to the nurse's mistake and the expired anesthetic. In 2018, Samoan Prime Minister caved in to the anti-vaxxers and paused measles vaccinations for nearly a year, even after it had been learned that the measles vaccine had not caused the death of the 2 babies. In mid-2019, a couple of months before the Samoan government declared a measles outbreak, RFK Jr. visited Samoa and met with the Prime Minister of Samoa and the health officials of that country. And RFK Jr. promoted his anti-vax pseudoscience to them. In November of 2019, as Samoan children were dying from measles, RFK Jr. sent the Prime Minister a letter suggesting that perhaps the children were dying from the measles vaccine itself as opposed to the children being unvaccinated. Now let's look at a chart of the history of the measles to see just how insanely idiotic RFK Jr. was being. Here we see how many measles cases were reported each year. The measles vaccine was created in 1963, and an improved version of that vaccine was created a couple years later. Notice when the number of reported cases went down, it was sometime after 1963. Also notice the graph within the graph on the lower right side. No doubt the vaccine disinformation campaigns are helping cause that spike. 83 people, mostly children, died from the measles epidemic before Samoa quickly got the kids back to a 90% plus vaccination rate. RFK Jr. has never apologized or acknowledged his role in any of the 83 deaths. So, as RFK Jr. gets ready to take the position of the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, should we Americans be worried? We can think of it like this. 83 people dying in a country that had a population of 200,000, which was the population at the time, is a lot. It would be the equivalent of about 135,000 American children dying. So the question is this: will RFK Jr. kill 135,000 children in America with his promotion of anti-vax disinformation as the Secretary of Health and Human Services? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to my channel, Democracy Report, and if you find this information at all interesting or helpful, I would ask that you consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the like button. I will see you in the next video.